All right, let's dive into some pretty fascinating research today.
Yeah.
We're going to be unlocking the secrets of BioCrypt.
Interesting stuff.
It's a system that's turning heads.
Literally.
Yeah, literally, in the world of data security.
It really is a fascinating convergence of biometrics and encryption.
Yeah.
Two fields that, they've been independently evolving for years,
Right?
but now they're kind of colliding
Yeah.
in a way that could totally redefine how we protect our digital lives.
Absolutely. And we've got this paper that we're looking at, BioCrypt, gradient-based facial encoding for key generation to encrypt and decrypt multimedia data.
Catchy title.
It is.
I like it.
But it's making a bold claim,
What's that?
Your face is the key to a future where passwords are, well,
Obsolete.
obsolete, gone, no more.
Yeah, think about that for a second.
Yeah.
No more like struggling to remember those complex strings of characters
Right.
or worrying about those pesky data breaches.
A big promise.
Huge. And you know what? This paper, it lays out a pretty compelling roadmap
Sure.
for how we might actually get there.
Interesting.
And what I think is particularly interesting is the sheer scope of their testing.
Okay.
They didn't just limit themselves to text documents or a handful of file types.
Right.
They threw everything but the kitchen sink at this thing.
Really?
25 different file types.
Wow.
From your mundane .docs to the more intricate .app files that you find on Android phones.
25 different file types.
It's impressive.
It's serious commitment to proving this thing works.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But okay, before we get ahead of ourselves, I think
Yeah.
we should sort of back up a bit.
Sure.
We all know the pain of forgotten passwords
Tell me about it.
and the limitations of current biometric systems.
Right.
So what's the driving force behind BioCrypt? What problems?
Yeah, what are they trying to solve here?
Exactly.
Well, it really boils down to this. Traditional security measures, they're just becoming increasingly vulnerable
Yeah,
in our hyper-connected world.
of course.
I mean, passwords, they can be cracked, stolen, or even guessed.
Right.
And even standalone biometric systems, while convenient,
Yeah.
they can be susceptible to spoofing and other attacks.
Right.
So BioCrypt, what it's aiming to do
Yeah.
is to basically leapfrog these weaknesses
Okay.
by merging the uniqueness of our facial features
Right.
with the robust security of the Advanced Encryption Standard, or AES.
Okay, so they're combining the best of both worlds.
Exactly.
Instead of just explaining AES, why don't you tell us what's special about how BioCrypt uses it?
Right. So BioCrypt, it leverages that proven security of AES.
Okay.
But there's a twist.
Oh.
Your face becomes the key,
Interesting.
and not just any key. It's a
Right.
very complex dynamic key.
Okay.
It's derived from the unique geometry of your face.
So even a bad hair day won't lock me out of my data.
Precisely, because BioCrypt uses what's called the Histogram of Oriented Gradients, or HOG,
Right?
to analyze the structure of your face. It's
Uh-huh.
like creating this detailed map of
Okay.
all those, subtle contours and edges.
Right.
And that makes it incredibly difficult to replicate. And here's where it gets even more secure.
Right.
They use a support vector machine,
Okay.
or SVM, to transform that map into a distinct 32-bit encryption key.
Hold on. That's a lot of technical jargon.
Sure.
Could you break that down a bit?
Yeah.
For us non-computer science folks.
Of course. So imagine this. Instead of relying on easily fooled photographs,
Okay.
BioCrypt uses HOG to create a complex code
Right.
based on the unique, almost invisible nuances of your facial structure.
Yeah.
It's like turning those tiny imperfections, these
Yeah.
little quirks that make you,
Yeah.
into a super secure password.
Right.
Then the SVM takes that complex code and distills it
Yeah.
into a shorter digital key
Okay.
that's still incredibly strong, but easier for computers to handle.
Gotcha. So my face is basically the walking, talking, uncrackable password.
Exactly.
But wouldn't that create a single point of failure?
I see what you're saying.
What if someone compromises my facial data?
That's a crucial point,
Yeah.
and one that we'll definitely delve deeper into later.
Okay.
For now, let's just focus on how this facial key
Okay.
actually protects your data.
Right. So my face is the key.
Right.
And it's secured with some pretty intense algorithms.
Yes.
But how does that translate to actually encrypting and decrypting my files?
Right. Well, this is where the AES algorithm comes in.
Okay.
AES is already a gold standard in data security.
Okay.
It's virtually unbreakable when used correctly.
Okay.
And BioCrypt uses your unique face-derived key
Yeah.
in conjunction with AES to scramble your data.
Right.
making it completely unreadable to anyone without the proper key.
Okay.
Think of it like this. It's like having a personalized, ultra-secure vault for your data.
Right.
And the only way to open it is with your face.
So it's using my unique facial features.
Yes. To create encryption that's virtually unbreakable. Exactly. That's reassuring, especially given how many different file types they tested it on.
Right.
Did they explain why they chose such a wide variety of file formats?
Absolutely. They wanted to prove that BioCrypt could handle
Okay.
the diverse data landscape that we encounter daily.
Yeah, of course.
We're talking about everything from text documents and spreadsheets to audio files, images, videos, presentations,
Yeah.
even those executable files that can run programs.
Oh, wow.
They wanted to demonstrate that BioCrypt could protect
Yeah.
any digital asset you can think of.
So they weren't just aiming for a niche solution.
No, not at all.
They were thinking big,
Absolutely.
envisioning a world where this could become the standard
The gold standard, yeah.
for data security across the board.
Across the board, for sure.
But with all this talk about unbreakable encryption,
Yeah.
I'm curious, how do they actually measure the strength of this system?
Right. So that's where things get a bit technical.
But I'll spare you the nitty-gritty details.
Thanks.
They used a battery of tests
Okay.
to ensure that BioCrypt lived up to its claims.
So how did it hold up against these tough tests?
It did very well.
Any surprises?
Not really, no. The results were impressive.
Okay.
They looked at things like correlation analysis,
Mm-hmm.
which measures how well the data is scrambled,
Okay.
Shannon entropy, which gauges the randomness of the encrypted data,
Gotcha.
and the normalized Hamming distance,
Okay.
which tells us how different the encrypted data is from the original.
Okay.
They even looked at something called the avalanche effect.
Okay. I'm going to need a bit more explanation on that one.
Sure.
What's the avalanche effect all about?
So imagine changing a single letter in a document
Okay.
with a strong encryption algorithm like AES.
Right.
That tiny change
Yeah.
should result in a completely different encrypted file.
Oh, wow.
That's the avalanche effect.
Interesting.
And even the smallest tweak
Okay.
should cascade into a massive change in the encrypted output.
So they're looking for a system that amplifies
Yeah,
even the smallest change,
exactly.
making it
Yeah.
nearly impossible
Right.
to reverse engineer the encryption process.
Exactly. It's like a domino effect for data security.
Makes sense. But before we dive too deep into the technical weeds,
Yeah.
I want to shift gears a bit
Sure.
and talk about something that's probably on everyone's mind: privacy.
Of course. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Anytime we talk about facial recognition and biometrics, privacy concerns are paramount.
Absolutely.
We need to be cautious and ensure that this technology
Yeah.
is developed and implemented responsibly.
Couldn't agree more.
We've got a lot to unpack there.
Yeah.
But I think that's a perfect segue into the next part of our deep dive.
Okay.
Let's take a break for a moment.
Sure.
And when we come back,
Yeah.
we'll explore the potential implications of BioCrypt, both good and bad,
Sounds good.
and we'll delve into those critical privacy considerations.
Let's do it.
All right, we'll be right back.
Looking forward to it. So, yeah, picking up where we left off,
Right.
diving headfirst into the potential implications of BioCrypt.
Right.
You know, the system that wants to make our faces the ultimate password.
Yeah, we've covered like the technical nuts and bolts.
Right.
And it's clear that BioCrypt offers some like impressive security advantages.
For sure.
But as with any new technology,
Yeah.
especially one dealing with biometrics,
Right.
there are, valid concerns.
Absolutely. And those concerns,
Yeah.
they often center around privacy.
Right.
Like, who has access to our facial data?
Right.
How is it stored, and what measures are in place
Yeah.
to prevent misuse?
Yeah, these are questions we can't just shy away from.
No, absolutely not.
It's easy to,
Yeah.
get caught up in the cool factor
Oh, yeah, for sure.
of this, imagining a world where
Yeah.
we can unlock our phones and computers with just a glance.
Right, right.
But that convenience
Yeah.
should come at the cost of our privacy.
Well said. And that's why it's crucial to have these conversations now,
Right.
while this technology is still in its early stages.
Absolutely.
We need to establish clear guidelines and regulations
For sure.
for how biometric data is collected,
Yeah.
stored, and used.
Okay, so let's talk about those potential risks.
Yeah.
What are some of the worst case scenarios?
Okay, so worst case scenario,
Yeah.
if this technology falls into the wrong hands,
Yeah, what happens?
One major concern is the potential for surveillance and tracking.
Oh, okay.
Imagine a world where your face is constantly being scanned and recorded.
Yeah.
You know, your movements tracked.
Right.
Without your knowledge or consent.
That's a pretty
Yeah, it's a bit
dystopian thought. Yeah.
It is, and it's not entirely far-fetched.
It sounds like, something out of a science fiction movie.
Right.
But it's a possibility we need to take seriously.
We do, for sure.
Yeah. What about the risk of, identity theft?
Yeah, that's another big one.
If someone steals my facial data,
right?
Could they use it to impersonate me?
Well, we've already seen cases where criminals have used sophisticated masks or even 3D printed faces.
Wow.
To fool facial recognition systems.
Right.
And as this technology becomes more widespread, we can expect to see even more elaborate attempts
Of course.
to circumvent security measures.
So we need to make sure
Absolutely.
that these systems are robust enough
Yes.
to resist spoofing attacks and other forms of manipulation.
Can agree more.
But even if we address those technical challenges, there's still the issue of data breaches.
Oh, of course, yeah.
What happens if a company storing my facial data gets hacked?
That's the nightmare scenario.
Right.
And unfortunately, it's one that's become all too common.
Yeah, it really has.
I mean, data breaches are a major problem in today's digital landscape.
Absolutely.
And biometric data is a prime target.
Of course.
For hackers.
Yeah.
And if our facial data falls into the wrong hands, the consequences could be devastating.
Okay, so we've talked about the potential downsides.
Right.
But let's flip the script for a moment.
Sure.
What about the potential benefits of BioCrypt?
Okay, so despite these concerns, there's no denying that BioCrypt offers some compelling advantages.
Right.
One of the most obvious is increased security.
Okay.
I mean, passwords, they're inherently vulnerable.
Right.
And even complex ones can be cracked with enough time and resources.
Of course.
Biometric authentication, on the other hand, much harder to forge.
So it could potentially make our digital lives more secure.
Absolutely.
Especially when it comes to things like online banking, financial transactions, accessing sensitive data.
Exactly. And it's not just about security. BioCrypt could also offer significant convenience.
Oh, okay. How so?
Think about all the passwords you have to remember.
Right.
For different websites and accounts.
Oh, it's a lot.
It's overwhelming.
Yeah, for sure.
It often leads people to choose weak passwords or reuse the same password across multiple platforms.
Right, which you should never do.
Exactly. Big no-no.
Yeah.
But with BioCrypt,
yeah,
we could potentially eliminate passwords altogether.
Okay, so just imagine logging into your computer.
Right.
Accessing your bank account.
Yes.
Even unlocking your front door.
Uh-huh.
All with a simple glance.
That's the vision.
It's pretty amazing.
It is, and it's not entirely out of reach.
Yeah.
But, as we've discussed, we need to proceed with caution.
Absolutely.
Ensuring that privacy and security go hand in hand.
So how do we strike that balance?
That's the question.
How do we ensure that the benefits of BioCrypt outweigh the risks?
Well, I think it starts with education and awareness.
Okay.
People need to understand the technology, the potential risks.
Of course.
And the steps they can take to protect themselves.
Okay. And then?
We also need strong regulations and oversight to prevent misuse and to ensure that companies are held accountable for how they handle our data.
That makes sense, but let's not forget about the users themselves.
Of course, yeah.
We all have a role to play.
Absolutely.
In protecting our privacy.
We do.
Right.
We need to be mindful of what information we share online.
Right.
We need to be cautious about using public Wi-Fi networks and choose strong passwords for accounts that don't yet offer biometric authentication.
It's about being informed and proactive.
Exactly.
Rather than just blindly trusting technology to protect us.
Well said. It's a shared responsibility.
Right.
And it requires a collaborative effort.
Okay.
Between individuals, companies, and policymakers to create a digital landscape that is both secure and privacy conscious.
Now, before we get too lost in the weeds of privacy and security, I want to shift gears a bit and tap into that novel notions side of things.
All right, let's do it.
We've talked about BioCrypt as a way to replace passwords and enhance security.
Right.
But what if we take this concept a step further?
Okay, I like where this is going.
What are some of the more futuristic
Yeah, let's get futuristic
applications of this technology.
Okay, so let's put on our futurist hats and explore the possibilities.
All right.
Imagine a world where our faces become not just keys to our digital lives, but also our passports.
Whoa,
our driver's licenses, our credit cards.
All in one.
All rolled into one.
So I'm walking through an airport.
Yeah.
My face is scanned. And boom, I'm through security, checked in for my flight, and grabbed a coffee.
You got it.
All with a glance.
Exactly. Seamless travel.
Wow.
Effortless transactions.
Yeah.
All powered by
the
unique geometry of your face.
That's pretty amazing.
It is. But here's where things get really mind-bending.
All right.
What if facial signatures become so secure and reliable that they replace traditional legal signatures?
Oh, wow.
Contracts, wills, even voting.
That's a big one.
All verified with the quick facial scan.
Now, that is some serious food for thought.
It is.
But doesn't that kind of creep into like some Black Mirror territory?
Oh, yeah.
What about like the potential for abuse?
Right.
Could someone be forced to sign a document?
That's a great question.
Against their will?
Absolutely. And that's why the ethical and societal implications of this technology need to be discussed alongside its technical advancement.
Yeah. So how do we ensure equitable access?
Right.
What about privacy concerns in a world where your face is the ultimate identifier?
It's a lot to unpack.
It is.
And it raises more questions than answers.
It does. It does.
But that's the beauty of exploring these novel notions. It's about pushing the boundaries of our imagination, even if it makes us a little uncomfortable.
It's about sparking critical thinking.
Exactly.
And engaging in those tough conversations that will ultimately shape the future we create.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Well, listeners, we've given you a lot to chew on today.
We have.
We've explored the technical marvels of BioCrypt, the potential risks and rewards of facial recognition technology.
Yes.
And even ventured into the realm of futuristic possibilities.
We did.
But before we wrap things up, I want to circle back to something you mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
User-friendliness.
Yeah. Right.
It's all well and good to have this, incredibly secure system. But if it's too complicated to use, it's not going to be widely adopted.
Right. Yeah, absolutely right.
So what are, some of the key considerations?
Okay, so when it comes to designing a user-friendly biometric authentication system, first and foremost, it needs to be intuitive and easy to use.
Right, so think about how simple it is to unlock your phone with your fingerprint or Face ID.
Yes.
That level of seamlessness needs to be extended.
It does.
To all aspects of BioCrypt.
Absolutely.
No more typing in complex passwords or remembering multiple pins. Just a quick glance and you're in.
Exactly, but it goes beyond just the initial authentication. The entire system needs to be designed with the user in mind.
Okay, so encrypting and decrypting files should be as simple as
clicking a button.
Clicking a button.
Okay.
And users should have granular control over their privacy settings.
So it's about creating a system that's both powerful and user-friendly, allowing people to benefit from the enhanced security without having to become cybersecurity experts themselves.
Precisely. It's about striking that delicate balance between robustness and accessibility. Making sure that the technology works for us, not against us.
And that's a challenge that researchers and developers will need to address head on.
For sure.
As biometric authentication becomes more prevalent in our daily lives.
It's an ongoing process.
Right.
And it requires constant innovation and adaptation.
Okay.
But ultimately, the success of this technology hinges on our ability to create systems that are secure, convenient, and most importantly,
respectful of our privacy.
Well, listeners, we've covered a lot of ground today.
We have.
From the technical intricacies of BioCrypt to the broader ethical and societal implications of facial recognition technology.
That's right.
We've explored the potential risks and rewards.
Yes.
The challenges and opportunities.
We did.
And even dared to glimpse into a future where our faces become the keys to our digital lives.
Exactly.
But now it's time to wrap things up.
Okay.
And leave you with a final thought to ponder.
Sounds good.
We've talked about, a lot of potential futures for this tech.
Yeah.
Some exciting, some a bit unnerving.
Right.
But as we wrap up,
yeah,
I keep coming back to this one question.
Okay.
Is the world actually ready for BioCrypt?
That's the million-dollar question.
It is.
And I don't think it has a simple answer.
Right.
Technically the system seems sound.
Yeah.
But societal readiness, that's a whole other ballgame.
Exactly. We can talk about,
Yeah.
encryption algorithms and facial recognition accuracy all day long.
Right.
But if people just aren't comfortable.
Yeah, if they're not comfortable with the idea
Yeah.
of their face being their key,
Right.
it's just not going to take off.
It boils down to trust.
It does.
Trust in the technology.
Trust in the companies that are developing and deploying it.
Right.
And trust in the regulations that are supposed to protect our privacy.
And right now that trust is,
it's fragile, to say the least.
it's pretty fragile, yeah. We've seen too many data breaches. Too many examples of facial recognition technology being misused.
Absolutely.
And frankly, not enough transparency.
Not enough.
From the companies that are collecting and storing our data.
You're hitting the nail on the head.
Yeah.
I think we need to have more open and honest conversations
For sure.
about the potential risks and benefits of this technology.
Well,
and we need to involve everyone in those conversations.
Yeah.
Not just the tech experts and the policymakers.
Yeah, the everyday people.
The everyday people.
Whose lives are going to be impacted by these advancements.
It's about empowering people.
Right.
To make informed decisions.
Yes.
About their own digital identities.
So do they want to live in a world where
Right.
their face is their passport?
Exactly.
Are they comfortable with the trade-offs?
The trade-offs are huge.
Between convenience and privacy.
Massive.
These are questions that,
Right, everyone's going to have to grapple with.
Exactly. And I think those answers are going to vary.
Of course.
Depending on a person's age.
Their background.
And cultural background.
Their experiences.
Right. Their personal experiences.
Yeah.
And their level of trust in institutions.
Absolutely. There's no one-size-fits-all solution here.
So it sounds like we're at a crossroads.
I think we are.
We have this, incredibly powerful technology.
We do.
With the potential to revolutionize data security.
Huge potential.
But we're also facing some very real ethical and societal challenges.
Absolutely.
What's the path forward here?
That's the question.
How do we navigate this, uncharted territory?
Well, I think it comes down to a few key principles.
All right.
Transparency, accountability, and user control.
Okay, so break that down.
So we need to demand transparency from the companies that are developing and deploying this technology.
Right.
We need to hold them accountable for how they're using our data.
Right.
And we need to empower users to have control over their own digital identities.
Those are powerful principles.
They are.
And it sounds like, a tall order.
It is a tall order, but
if we can get those things right.
Right. If we can, then maybe, just maybe, we can unlock a future where technology serves humanity.
Right.
Not the other way around.
That's the goal.
That's the goal, to create a future where technology enhances our lives.
Right.
Makes us safer.
More connected.
More empowered.
Yeah.
Without compromising the values that make us human.
And that's a future worth striving for.
Absolutely.
Well said. And on that hopeful note, I think it's time to wrap up this deep dive.
Sounds good.
Listeners, we've thrown a lot of information your way today.
We have.
Complex algorithms, mind-bending possibilities.
Really went there.
And some tough questions.
Yeah, some tough ones.
About privacy and security.
Absolutely.
But ultimately, the future of this technology,
it's up to us.
Is in our hands.
All of us.
So stay informed.
Stay engaged.
Stay engaged and keep asking those tough questions.
Couldn't agree more.
The future is what we make it.
It is.
Let's make it a good one.
Let's do it.